It's a cold December evening in 2024, and the air at JFK International Airport is thick with the hum of travelers, the scent of coffee, and the chill of winter. Snowflakes drift lazily outside the glass windows as people rush through the terminals, their breaths visible in the frosty air. Among them is Isabel Grayson, a 27-year-old woman with tired eyes and a heavy heart, stepping off a plane from Los Angeles. She adjusts her scarf, pulling her suitcase behind her, her mind still reeling from a breakup that's left her raw and restless. She's come back to New York to start over, but fate has other plans. As Isabel weaves through the crowd, her gaze lands on a familiar figure near the arrival gate. It's Tyler Vance, her ex-boyfriend of 3 years, standing there with a smug grin. Beside him is Chloe Bennett, her 25-year-old half-sister, her arms crossed and a smirk playing on her lips. Isabel freezes, her stomach twisting. Tyler, 29, with his sharp jawline and slicked-back hair, steps forward. He doesn't waste time. "Isabel, I'm with Chloe now. It's over between us. You were never enough." His words cut deep, but Chloe's next move stings even more. She pulls out her phone, her voice dripping with venom. "I've got screenshots, Isabel. Messages you sent Tyler. I'll post them online, twist them, and let everyone see what a mess you are. You'll be humiliated by morning." Isabel's chest tightens. She can already imagine the flood of comments, the judgment from strangers, the ruin of her quiet life. Panic surges through her as she stammers, "You wouldn't dare." Chloe laughs, a cold, sharp sound. "Try me." Before Isabel can respond, she bumps into someone behind her, nearly dropping her suitcase. She turns to apologize and finds herself staring into the calm, steady eyes of Lucas Harrington, a 30-year-old man in a simple coat, his presence solid and unassuming. He's been watching the scene unfold, waiting for a delayed flight, his hands tucked into his pockets. Lucas doesn't hesitate. He steps forward, placing a hand on Isabel's shoulder, and says to Tyler and Chloe, "Is there a problem here? I've been waiting for Isabel. We've got plans." His voice is firm, authoritative, and it throws Tyler off balance. Chloe narrows her eyes, sizing him up. "Who are you?" she snaps. Lucas doesn't flinch. "Someone who doesn't like seeing people ganged up on. Back off." Tyler scoffs, but there's a flicker of doubt in his expression. He mutters something under his breath, grabs Chloe's arm, and they stalk away, her heels clicking against the tile floor. Isabel exhales, her hands trembling. She turns to Lucas, her voice shaky. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." Lucas shrugs, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Looked like you needed a hand. I'm Lucas Harrington, by the way." She nods, still processing. "Isabel Grayson, I owe you one." But her relief is short-lived. The threat of Chloe's social media attack looms over her like a storm cloud. She knows her half-sister won't stop, and the thought of her reputation crumbling pushes her to a reckless edge. She looks at Lucas, a stranger who's just stepped into her chaos, and an idea sparks. "Lucas," she says, her voice low but determined. "This might sound insane, but will you marry me? Right now. Not for real, just on paper. If I'm married, Chloe's rumors won't stick as easily. It'll buy me time to figure this out." Lucas raises an eyebrow, studying her. He's just retired from the military, a man used to quick decisions under pressure, and his own family has been hounding him to settle down. He sees the desperation in her eyes, the fire beneath it, and something about her pulls at him. After a long pause, he says, "Okay, but if we do this, we can call it off whenever we want. Deal?" Isabel nods, relief washing over her. "Deal." They don't waste time. The city clerk's office in Lower Manhattan is a short cab ride away, still open for late registrations. The streets outside are lined with twinkling holiday lights, a stark contrast to the whirlwind in Isabel's mind. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzz as they fill out forms, their hands brushing as they sign their names. The clerk, a tired woman with glasses, barely looks up as she stamps their marriage certificate. "Congratulations," she mutters, sliding it across the counter. Isabel stares at the paper, her name now tied to Lucas Harrington's, a man she met less than an hour ago. They step back into the cold night, the certificate tucked into Isabel's bag. She looks at Lucas, her breath visible in the air. "What now?" she asks. He shrugs again, that same faint smile returning. "We figure it out. You're safe for tonight, at least." Isabel nods, her heart still racing. She's just married a stranger to dodge a scandal, and the weight of it hasn't fully hit her. Lucas feels an unexpected pull toward this woman who's stumbled into his life, her courage quietly striking a chord. As they part ways, agreeing to meet tomorrow to sort out their next steps, the snow falls heavier, blanketing the city in silence. Isabel heads to her Brooklyn apartment, her mind a tangle of fear and gratitude. She unlocks her door, steps inside, and sets her suitcase down, the marriage certificate burning a hole in her bag. Across town, Lucas walks toward a hotel, his thoughts lingering on Isabel. The city hums around them, oblivious to the fragile bond they've just forged. Tomorrow, they'll face the reality of their impulsive decision, but for now, the night holds them in its quiet embrace, a fleeting pause before the storm ahead. The snow continues to fall over New York as Isabel Grayson steps into her small Brooklyn apartment, the marriage certificate still tucked in her bag. The space is modest, a one-bedroom haven she's carved out for herself with a worn sofa, a tiny kitchen, and a window overlooking the street. She drops her suitcase by the door, her mind racing from the events at JFK. Lucas Harrington, a stranger-turned-husband, lingers in her thoughts. She replays his calm intervention, the way he faced down Tyler Vance and Chloe Bennett without hesitation. It's past midnight, but sleep feels impossible. She sits on the sofa, staring at the certificate, wondering what she's gotten herself into. Across town, Lucas Harrington checks into a hotel near Times Square, his military duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The room is simple, a stark contrast to the life he's hiding. He's the CEO of Harrington Industries, a sprawling empire of real estate and technology, but he's told Isabel none of this. To her, he's just a retired soldier, a man drifting after years of service. He sits on the edge of the bed, replaying their impulsive wedding, her fire, her vulnerability. It stirred something in him he can't quite name. Tomorrow, they'll meet again, and he wonders how long he can keep his secret. The next morning, Isabel texts Lucas, suggesting they meet at her place to figure out their arrangement. He arrives at noon, knocking on her door with a quiet confidence. She lets him in, offering a hesitant smile. "Thanks for coming," she says, gesturing to the sofa. "I thought we should talk about how this works." Lucas nods, taking a seat. "Makes sense. We're married now, at least on paper. What do you need from me?" Isabel paces, her hands fidgeting. "I need Chloe to back off. If she thinks I've moved on, she might drop the rumors. Maybe you could stay here for a while, just to sell it." Lucas considers this, then agrees. "I can do that. I don't have a place lined up yet, anyway." And so Lucas moves in, his few belongings fitting easily into a corner of her living room. The first few days are awkward, a dance of strangers sharing space. Isabel works remotely as a graphic designer, her laptop humming on the kitchen table, while Lucas spends hours on his phone, claiming he's job hunting. But he's quick to help, fixing a leaky faucet, picking up groceries, cooking dinner. One evening, he makes pasta from scratch, the smell filling the apartment. Isabel watches, surprised. "Where'd you learn that?" she asks. Lucas grins. "Military bases get boring. You pick up skills." She laughs, the sound rare and unguarded, and for a moment, the tension between them softens. Over dinner, Isabel opens up. She tells him about her past, her voice steady but laced with pain. "My mom died when I was 15, cancer. Robert Grayson, my dad, remarried 6 months later to Vanessa Pierce. Chloe's her daughter from before. I never fit in after that. Moved out at 18 and haven't looked back." Lucas listens, his fork paused midair. "That's rough," he says simply. "Sounds like you've been on your own a long time." Isabel nods, staring at her plate. "Pretty much. What about you?" Lucas hesitates, then offers a half-truth. "Military life. Parents passed years ago, no siblings. Just me now." It's enough to satisfy her, but he feels the weight of what he's not saying. Their fragile bond grows through these small moments. One night, Isabel pulls out a bottle of wine, a leftover from a client gift. They sit on the sofa, glasses in hand, the city lights flickering outside. The alcohol loosens her tongue and she admits, "I don't know why you said yes to this. You don't even know me." Lucas takes a sip, his eyes meeting hers. "You looked like someone worth helping. That's enough for now." The air shifts, charged with an unspoken pull. She leans closer, her hand brushing his, and for a heartbeat it seems they might cross a line, but Lucas pulls back, standing abruptly. "I'll take the couch," he says, his voice rough. He grabs a blanket and settles in, leaving Isabel staring after him, her heart pounding. The next day, trouble finds them. Isabel's phone buzzes with a message from Chloe, a screenshot of an old text to Tyler with a taunting caption. Pathetic, right? She's still obsessed. Isabel's face pales as she shows it to Lucas. She's posting this stuff online. It's starting. Before she can spiral, they hear a knock. Isabel opens the door to find Chloe standing there, smirking, her phone still in hand. "Thought I'd drop by, see how the loser's doing," Chloe says, peering inside. She spots Lucas and laughs. "Who's this? Your rebound? He looks broke." Isabel clenches her fists, but Lucas steps forward, calm and unshaken. "Lucas Harrington," he says, his tone cool. "Her husband, actually, and you're interrupting our day." Chloe's smirk falters, her eyes darting between them. "Husband, you're lying." Lucas pulls a small box from his pocket, something he'd picked up that morning, and hands it to Isabel. "Open it," he says. Inside is a sleek silver bracelet, elegant and expensive, stamped with the Harrington Industries logo. Though Isabel doesn't know that yet, she slips it on, stunned, and Lucas turns to Chloe. "Believe it now, maybe you should leave." Chloe's face twists with envy, her plan unraveling. "This isn't over," she snaps, storming off, her parting shot echoing in the hall. Isabel stares at the bracelet, then at Lucas. "Where'd you get this? It looks expensive." He shrugs, dodging the truth. "Had it lying around, thought it'd shut her up." She doesn't press, but gratitude flickers in her eyes. "Thanks. Again." They sit back down, the wine forgotten, the bracelet glinting on her wrist. Isabel feels a warmth she hasn't in years, a sense that maybe she's not as alone as she thought. Lucas watches her, his secret pressing harder against his chest. He's not just a soldier, not just a drifter, and every day with her makes it tougher to hide. Outside, the snow piles up, softening the edges of Brooklyn's streets. Isabel locks the door, her mind settling into an uneasy calm. Chloe's threat still lingers, but Lucas's presence feels like a shield. She glances at him, sprawled on the sofa, already half asleep, and wonders what he's running from. Lucas cracks an eye open, catching her look, and offers a small nod. Tomorrow they'll face more questions, more challenges, but tonight the apartment holds a quiet truce. The city hums beyond the walls, a backdrop to their tentative alliance, as two strangers begin to build something neither expected. The Brooklyn apartment feels smaller as the days stretch into a week, the snow outside piling up against the windows. Isabel Grayson adjusts to Lucas Harrington's presence, his quiet habits weaving into her routine. He's up early, brewing coffee before she stirs, and spends evenings tinkering with a broken lamp or cooking meals that fill the space with warmth. Isabel finds herself softening, her guard lowering with each shared dinner. The bracelet he gave her sits on her wrist, a constant reminder of his stand against Chloe Bennett. She hasn't heard from her half-sister since that confrontation, but the silence feels more like a brewing storm than peace. Lucas, meanwhile, balances two lives. By day, he's the ex-soldier Isabel knows, deflecting questions about his past with vague answers. By night, he slips out to a hotel payphone, managing Harrington Industries from afar. He tells his assistant Owen Caldwell to keep his absence from the company discreet. "I need time," he says, his voice low. "No one knows I'm here." Owen warns him about boardroom whispers, but Lucas brushes it off. He's drawn to Isabel, her resilience, pulling him in deeper, and he's not ready to shatter the fragile world they're building. One evening, Lucas suggests they get out. "You've been cooped up too long," he says, handing her a coat. Isabel hesitates, then agrees. He takes her to a charity gala in Manhattan, claiming he got free tickets from a friend. The venue is a gleaming skyscraper, all glass and gold, buzzing with New York's elite. Isabel feels out of place in her simple black dress. But Lucas moves with ease, nodding to a few faces. She doesn't notice the way people defer to him, the subtle glances of recognition. They mingle, sipping champagne, until a man in a tailored suit approaches. "Mr. Harrington," he says, extending a hand. "Good to see you back." Isabel freezes, her glass halfway to her lips. Lucas recovers quickly, shaking the man's hand. "Good to see you too. This is Isabel Grayson, my wife." The word slips out naturally, and Isabel's eyes widen. The man nods, unfazed, and moves on. Isabel turns to Lucas, her voice sharp. "What was that? He called you Mr. Harrington, like it means something." Lucas sighs, setting his glass down. "We should talk, somewhere private." He leads her to a quiet balcony, the city sprawling below, lights twinkling against the night. "I'm not just a soldier," he admits. "I run Harrington Industries. Real estate, tech, a few other things. That's who I am." Isabel stares at him, processing. "You're a CEO? And you didn't tell me?" Her tone is a mix of disbelief and hurt. Lucas meets her gaze, steady. "I wanted someone to see me, not the money or the name. When we met, you didn't care about any of that. I liked it." Isabel steps back, her mind racing. "So this whole time you've been lying?" He shakes his head. "Not lying, just waiting. I was going to tell you." She looks away, the bracelet suddenly heavy on her wrist. "I need to think," she says, and walks back inside, leaving him on the balcony, the cold biting at his skin. The next day, trouble escalates. Isabel's phone rings, and it's Robert Grayson, her father. His voice is clipped, urgent. "We need to meet, now. The old house in Westchester." She hasn't spoken to him in years, but the edge in his tone pulls her in. She tells Lucas, who insists on coming. They drive an hour north, the snow-dusted suburbs unfolding around them. The Grayson family home looms ahead, a faded colonial with peeling paint, a relic of better days. Robert waits in the living room, his face lined with stress. Beside him is Vanessa Pierce, his wife, her eyes cold and calculating. "Isabel," Robert begins, "the company's dying. Grayson Designs, your mother's legacy. We're bankrupt unless we get an investor." Isabel frowns. "Why tell me now? You've ignored me for years." Vanessa cuts in, her voice sharp. "Because you owe us. Victor Marshall, a client, will save us. He's interested in you. Meet him, convince him, and we keep the business." Isabel recoils. "You want to sell me off? That's insane." Robert's jaw tightens. "It's practical. You're a Grayson. Act like it." Lucas, silent until now, steps forward. "She's not a bargaining chip. This stops here." Vanessa smirks. "And who are you? Her bodyguard?" Lucas's voice is steel. "Her husband. And I don't let people bully my wife." Robert laughs, bitter. "Husband, convenient timing. Doesn't change facts. We need this." Isabel's hands tremble, but she finds her voice. "You don't own me. Mom left me her share of the company and this house. I checked the will years ago. Where's it gone?" Robert's face darkens. "That's ours now. You walked away." Lucas pulls out his phone. "Not if I have anything to say about it. I've got lawyers who'll dig into this. You've got nothing unless it's legal." The room crackles with tension. Vanessa snaps. "You'll regret this." But Lucas doesn't budge, guiding Isabel out. In the car, she's quiet, her mind a storm. "You didn't have to do that," she says finally. Lucas keeps his eyes on the road. "Yeah, I did. They don't get to hurt you." Back in Brooklyn, Isabel digs through old files, finding her mother's will. It's true, she's entitled to half the company and the house, but Robert's hidden it. Lucas calls a contact, a top attorney named Sarah Klein. "File a suit," he says. "Everything they've taken, we're getting back." Days later, Chloe resurfaces online, posting a photo of Isabel from years ago, captioned, Desperate and broke, some wife. Comments flood in, cruel and mocking. Isabel's stomach drops, but Lucas sits beside her, unfazed. "Let me handle this," he says. He calls Owen Caldwell, instructing him to trace the post and counter it. Within hours, Harrington Industries issues a statement. Lucas Harrington proudly stands by his wife, Isabel Grayson. False claims will face legal action. The tide shifts, Chloe's post backfiring as supporters rally around Isabel. Tyler Vance, meanwhile, faces his own reckoning. Harrington Industries uncovers his falsified resume, a scandal from his college days. Owen delivers the news to Lucas over the phone. He's out, fired this morning. He's furious, threatening to sue. Lucas shrugs. Let him try. Isabel overhears, piecing it together. "You did that?" she asks. Lucas nods. "He hurt you. I don't let that slide." She studies him, the man she married on a whim, now fighting her battles. "Well?" she whispers. He meets her eyes, his voice soft. "Because I'm starting to care. More than I planned." The apartment grows quiet. The cities hum a distant pulse. Isabel sits with the will, the bracelet, the weight of Lucas's words. She's reclaiming her past, but his confession cracks something open. She doesn't say it, but she feels it too, a thread of trust weaving through the chaos. Lucas watches her, his secret out, his heart exposed. The lawsuit moves forward, Sarah Klein building a case against Robert and Vanessa. Chloe's online venom fades, Tyler's threats hollow. For now, they've won a fragile victory, but the storm isn't over. Isabel glances at Lucas, asleep on the sofa, and knows there's more to face. Together. The air in Isabel Grayson's Brooklyn apartment grows heavier as winter deepens, the snow outside now a thick blanket over the city. She sits at her kitchen table, the will from her mother spread out before her, Lucas Harrington's confession still echoing in her mind. He's more than a soldier, more than a stranger, and his quiet vow to protect her has shifted something deep within. Lucas sleeps on the sofa, his breathing steady, unaware of the storm brewing beyond their fragile sanctuary. Isabel traces the bracelet on her wrist, a gift from a man she's only beginning to understand, and feels a flicker of hope amid the chaos of her life. Across town, in a sleek Manhattan penthouse, Samantha Dutton paces, her heels clicking against polished wood. She's 28, sharp-edged and ambitious, Lucas's ex-girlfriend with a grudge as cold as the December night. Beside her stands Miles Thornton, 32, Lucas's cousin and a Harrington Industries executive with his own hunger for power. They've watched Lucas's rise, his marriage to Isabel, and they're not content to sit idle. "He's distracted," Samantha says, her voice low. "This wife of his, she's a weakness. We can use her." Miles nods, his eyes glinting. The Silver Lake project, it's his crown jewel. If he loses it, the board will turn. I'll take his place. Their plan takes shape quickly. Samantha digs into Isabel's past, finding old photos and half-truths. She crafts a narrative, vicious and viral, and posts it online. Isabel Grayson, gold digger, trapped Harrington heir in sham marriage. The post spreads like wildfire, comments piling up, tearing into Isabel's character. Miles amplifies it, leaking rumors to business blogs, questioning Lucas' judgment. At the same time, Samantha calls Isabel from a burner phone, her voice disguised. "Leave him, or we ruin you both." Silver Lake's on the line. Isabel's hands shake as she listens, the threat sinking in. She's 3 weeks pregnant, a secret she's only just confirmed, and the weight of it makes her dizzy. Lucas wakes to Isabel's pale face, her phone still clutched in her hand. "What's wrong?" he asks, sitting up. She shows him the post, the call log, her voice trembling. "They're after you, because of me." He reads the screen, his jaw tightening. "This is Samantha Dutton, I know her tricks. And Miles, he's been gunning for my spot since we were kids." Isabel frowns. "Your ex? Your cousin?" "Why me?" Lucas stands, pacing. "They think you're my Achilles heel. They're wrong. We fight this together." He calls Owen Caldwell, his assistant, barking orders. "Trace the post. Shut it down and get security on Isabel, now. But the storm doesn't wait. That afternoon, Robert Grayson calls again, his tone desperate. Isabel, come to Westchester, alone. It's about Eleanor. Isabel's heart lurches. Eleanor Grayson, her 78-year-old grandmother, the only family who ever loved her. Lucas insists on driving her, but she shakes her head. If it's her, I need to go. Stay here, keep the company safe. He relents, reluctant, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Call me if anything feels off. She nods, grabbing her coat, the drive north a blur of snow and dread. At the old house, Robert waits, his face haggard. Vanessa Pierce lingers nearby, her eyes sharp. Eleanor's sick, Robert says, heart trouble. She's asking for you, but there's a catch. Sign over your shares, the house, everything your mother left. It's the only way we save the company. Isabel's blood runs cold. You're lying. She'd never want this. She pushes past him, climbing the stairs to Eleanor's room. Her grandmother sits in a chair, frail but alert, her white hair framing a weary smile. Isabel, she whispers, I knew you'd come. Robert follows, his voice rising. Sign it or we lose everything. Eleanor agrees. Isabel turns to her grandmother, searching her eyes. Eleanor shakes her head, weak but firm. No, I don't. He's been hounding me for weeks. My heart can't take it. Isabel kneels beside her, fury building. You've been stressing her out for money? She's dying because of you. Robert grabs her arm, desperate. It's business, Isabel. Grow up. She wrenches free, dialing Lucas. Get here, now. It's Eleanor. Lucas speeds north, but danger closes in elsewhere. Tyler Vance and his mother, Diane Vance, 54 and ruthless, have their own score to settle. Tyler's firing from Harrington Industries has left him humiliated, and Diane fuels his rage. Lucas did this, she hisses, handing him keys to a truck. End him. That night, on a snowy highway outside Westchester, Tyler spots Lucas's car. He accelerates, ramming the side, sending Lucas spinning into a ditch. The truck vanishes into the dark, leaving Lucas slumped over the wheel, blood trickling down his face. Isabel waits at the house, her phone buzzing with no answer from Lucas. Eleanor grips her hand, her breathing shallow. You're strong, child, stronger than them. Before Isabel can respond, Eleanor's eyes flutter shut, her grip slackening. Isabel chokes back a sob, calling an ambulance. But it's too late. Eleanor's gone, her heart finally giving out under Robert's relentless pressure. The paramedics arrive, confirming the loss, and Isabel collapses against the wall, grief swallowing her whole. Hours later, Owen Caldwell calls, his voice tight. Lucas crashed. He's in the hospital, coma. We think it was deliberate. Isabel's world tilts. She drives to the city, tears blurring the road, arriving at the hospital to find Lucas in a sterile room, tubes snaking from his arms. She sinks into a chair beside him, her hand on his, whispering, Don't leave me too. She's pregnant, alone, and surrounded by enemies, but something, steel-hard, rises in her chest. She won't break. The next morning, Miles Thornton strides into Harrington Industries, a predator sensing blood. With Lucas down, he calls an emergency board meeting, claiming leadership. He's unfit, Miles tells the suits around the table. His wife's a liability. I steer us through Silver Lake. Isabel hears of it through Owen, who's loyal to Lucas. She wipes her tears, pulls on a coat, and marches to the Manhattan headquarters, her mother's will in hand. She's still half owner of Grayson Designs, a leverage point. Bursting into the meeting, Isabel faces Miles, her voice cutting through the room. You don't get to take this. Lucas built it, and I'm here for him. Miles sneers. You? A nobody? She slams the will down. I've got assets, and I'm his wife. Try me. The board hesitates, impressed by her fire. Owen backs her, presenting Lucas's directives, naming her proxy. Miles fumes, but the tide shifts. Isabel takes charge, her pregnancy a secret strength, vowing to hold the line until Lucas wakes. Online, Samantha's smear campaign rages, but Isabel counters with a press release, drafted with Owen's help. Harrington Industries stands united. Lies won't break us. Public opinion wavers, some siding with her grit, Chloe piles on, posting more venom, but it's drowned by supporters rallying around Isabel. Tyler, emboldened, calls her, his voice slurred with rage. "You'll pay for ruining me." She hangs up, blocking him, her focus on Lucas and the company. At the hospital, Isabel sits by Lucas's bedside, exhaustion carving lines into her face. She whispers to him, "I lost Eleanor. I can't lose you. We've got a baby coming, Lucas. Fight." A nurse checks his vitals, offering no promises. Outside, Robert and Vanessa plot, furious at losing Eleanor's leverage. Samantha and Miles regroup, their scheme faltering but not dead. Diane smirks in a dark corner, Tyler at her side, planning their next move. In the apartment, Isabel's laptop glows with work. Grayson Designs papers scattered around. She's fighting on all fronts, her grandmother's memory a quiet fuel. The city pulses beyond the window, indifferent to her war. Lucas lies still, his fate uncertain, but Isabel clings to hope. The hospital room in Manhattan hums with the steady beep of machines, a quiet rhythm beneath the storm that's consumed Isabel Grayson's life. She sits beside Lucas Harrington's bed, her hand resting on his, her eyes red from sleepless nights. It's been 3 days since the crash, 3 days since Eleanor Grayson's death, and the weight of loss presses hard against her chest. She's pregnant, a secret she clings to like a lifeline, whispering to Lucas in the dim light, "You've got to wake up, we've got a family to build." The nurse checks his chart, her face neutral, offering no promises. Isabel holds her breath, waiting for a miracle. Across the city, at Harrington Industries, Miles Thornton seethes, his bid for control slipping through his fingers. Isabel's stand at the board meeting has rallied enough support to stall his takeover. But he's not done. He meets Samantha Dutton in a shadowed cafe, her nails tapping the table. "She's tougher than we thought," Samantha says, her voice bitter. "But Lucas won't wake up soon. We push harder, break." "How the magic wave not?" Underneath, Samantha says with an appreciating breath. Miles nods, plotting their next move. Meanwhile, Tyler Vance and Diane Vance lurk in a rundown motel, nursing their own revenge. "She's why I'm nothing," Tyler mutters, clutching a beer. Diane smirks. "Then we finish what we started." But the tide begins to turn. Owen Caldwell, Lucas's loyal assistant, digs into the crash, working with a private investigator. They find tire marks, paint traces, and a witness who saw a truck flee the scene. "It's deliberate," Owen tells Isabel over the phone, his voice urgent. "We're closing in." She nods, steeling herself, and calls Sarah Klein, the attorney fighting for her mother's estate. "Robert Grayson's behind Eleanor's death," Isabel says. "Stress, pressure, it killed her, prove it." Sarah agrees, filing charges, her team unearthing medical records showing Eleanor's decline under Robert's demands. In the hospital, a flicker of hope emerges. Lucas's fingers twitch. A small movement Isabel catches from the corner of her eye. She gasps, gripping his hand tighter. "Lucas? Can you hear me?" His eyes flutter open, dazed but alive, and relief floods her. "Isabel," he croaks, his voice weak. She laughs through tears, pressing her forehead to his. "You're back, thank God." The doctor rushes in, confirming he's stable, though recovery will take time. Lucas squeezes her hand, piecing together the chaos. "What's happened?" She tells him everything. Eleanor's death, the company, the threats. His jaw tightens. "They don't win. We end this." With Lucas awake, the fight accelerates. He calls Owen from the hospital bed, voice hoarse but firm. "Get me everything on Miles and Samantha, and find that truck." Owen delivers within hours, evidence piling up. Samantha's burner phone ties her to the smear campaign, traced by cybersecurity experts. Miles's emails reveal he leaked Silver Lake project details to rivals, sabotaging Lucas. The crash links to Tyler, security footage catching his truck near the highway. Diane's bank records show payments to a mechanic for quick repairs. Lucas hands it all to the police, his eyes blazing. "Arrest them, all of them." Justice moves swiftly. Samantha Dutton is picked up at her penthouse, her protest shrill as handcuffs snap on. "This is a mistake," she yells, but the evidence silences her. Miles Thornton is detained at Harrington Industries, his office raided, his smug grin gone. Isabel stands in the old Westchester house one last time, the walls echoing with Eleanor's memory. She decides to sell it, along with Grayson Designs, the company her mother built. The sale fetches millions and she funnels it into a foundation, the Eleanor Grayson Fund, to support orphan children. "It's what she'd want," Isabel tells Lucas, her voice steady. He nods, still weak but upright, leaning on a cane. "You're honoring her." That's enough. They leave the house behind, the past settling into a quiet goodbye. Spring arrives, melting the snow, and with it comes renewal. Lucas recovers fully, reclaiming his role at Harrington Industries. He calls a board meeting, Isabel at his side, and lays out the truth. "Miles betrayed us, Samantha too, but we're stronger now. Silver Lake's back on track." The board applauds, Miles's allies slinking away, the company united. Online, Chloe Bennett's final post flops, her credibility shot, drowned by a wave of support for Isabel. Tyler's threats fade into prison walls, Diane beside him, their vengeance buried. In a small church on the outskirts of New York, Isabel and Lucas stand before a handful of guests. She's in a simple white dress, her belly just beginning to show, his hand steady in hers. They renew their vows, this time for real, the paper marriage transformed by love forged in fire. Owen Caldwell grins from the pews, Sarah Klein beside him, witnesses to their journey. The priest smiles. "You may kiss." Lucas pulls Isabel close, their kiss a promise, the crowd clapping softly. They move into a Manhattan townhouse, a fresh start overlooking the Hudson River. Isabel decorates a nursery, painting walls a soft yellow, Lucas assembling a crib with careful hands. One evening they stand on the balcony, the city skyline glowing against the dusk. Isabel rests her head on his shoulder, her voice quiet. "I lost so much. Eleanor, my mom, years I can't get back, but you're my light through it all." Lucas turns to her, his eyes warm. "And you're mine. We've got a future now, Isabel. You, me, this little one." He touches her stomach, a smile breaking through. The nursery waits, a rocking chair by the window, a mobile spinning stars above the crib. Isabel frames a photo of Eleanor, placing it on the shelf, her grandmother's gentle face watching over them. The Eleanor Grayson Fund launches, its first grant helping a shelter in Brooklyn, a legacy of care. Lucas oversees Silver Lake, the project thriving, a testament to their resilience. The city moves on, its rhythm unbroken, but within their home time slows, wrapping them in peace. Isabel thinks back to that night at JFK, the panic, the stranger who became her anchor. She'd married Lucas to escape a lie, but found a truth deeper than she'd imagined. He'd hidden his world, fearing it would define him, only to discover she saw him anyway. They've faced betrayal, loss, and schemes, but emerged whole, their bond unshakable. The baby kicks, a tiny pulse of life, and Isabel smiles, Lucas's arm around her. The townhouse glows with evening light, the river reflecting a golden sheen. Isabel leans into Lucas, her hand in his, the bracelet still on her wrist, a symbol of their beginning. "We made it," she says, her voice soft. He nods, kissing her temple. "We did, and we're just getting started." The night settles, calm and sure, their love a quiet triumph over the shadows. The city hums below, a distant song, as they step inside, closing the door on the past, ready for whatever lies ahead.